Good morning, candidates and semi-candidates. I would assume the senior threes are also watching. Yeah, I still thank the opportunity that has been availed to us by BBS and then Maryland High School. So today, basically, we are going to look at functional writing. Those in senior 3 and senior 4, when I talk about functional writing, they really understand that these are aspects that are found in English language, paper 112/1, but this time section A. However, before we go to functional writing, I want us to first revisit what we looked at last week. Last week, we were looking at composition writing. We looked at how we could use synonyms to widen our vocabulary, and we looked at how we could use these various synonyms on how to write a very good composition, come up with very good compositions. Now, I received so many emails on the email that I left, and I liked it when my candidates really wrote and sent me, and I marked them and I gave them feedback. Now, one of them that I chose and asked to use is from Aineviona Audrey. Now, Audrey is from Maryland High School. So she brought she sent me her email and her composition, which, remember, our question was to write a composition with the title Trusted Friend. I have other candidates really who wrote. I have other candidates like Shafiq Twaha from Medina Islamic. I have Ibrahim, Ibrahim bin Omar. I have Nisima Obed. I have Victor, and so many other candidates who wrote. I marked them and I sent feedback. But I wanted to use this because she's my own. So if you can see, if you can view the screen and see what she wrote, she really tried, but I'm not saying that it was the best. No, she had some mistakes that she had. I marked and then gave her feedback. But at least I could use it as an example. You see, she really followed the guidelines because the title was the trusted. The question asked us to use a title, Trusted Friend, the trusted friend. So she used it, and like many other candidates who wrote, they also used the very title. But if you look at how she started, for her, she employed a different way of beginning. Remember, we said that the most important thing is to start. So she started and she used a rather direct speech from what we learned in paper 2. So you look at how she started, Peter, Peter, wake up. So it's all there, you can read and see. But she had some mistakes there that I tried to work on. And some of the few mistakes that she had were, if you look at the spelling of masculine, when she said on the third line, Mr. Bongo was a masculine. So when you look at the third line, she really misspelled the word masculine. And I want to imagine that she was in the rush, the first paragraph, the third. So we looked at that spelling error. Then we looked at the various repetitions that she had, having. She continuously used having. She could have limited on that. Then if you look at maybe how she missed out on the word had when she was using I dressed to the nines. She wrote I dressed nines. So, and a few other mistakes, like if you look at, was it the third paragraph? Having beat our gums. So she could have used the having beaten. I have gazed, I gazed, and so many other mistakes that she looked at. But I marked her and sent feedback. I marked the other candidates and also sent feedback. Candidates like Shafiq also had issues with paragraphs. When you look at, is it Arham bin Omal? If you look at the way you started, I also sent you feedback. I hope you've used it so well. If you look at Nisima from St. Augustine, yeah, we looked at the spellings of the vocabulary that we had, and so many others. But I thank you that you really tried your best. I think today, as I end, maybe some of you found difficulties in using the email. I'll be giving you my number to use. So thank you so much for being attentive. Thank you so much for paying attention and also listening to the teacher, and also paying attention to the question that I left and then you wrote. It is very good to write. You have to write, so you have to start so as to do what? To improve on your composition writing. Otherwise, if you don't start, then you never learn. And then maybe to also give some more clarity. You do not have to use these so many words that we had here. If you feel you're not ready to use these words, you could go clear, I mean the simpler way. Still, you have very good what? very good, you'll have very good work and very good composition. So basically today, our focus is going to be in section A, and we're going to look at functional writing. And here, we're going to put our most emphasis on minutes writing. Minutes writing. Maybe one would ask, what are minutes? Or what is minutes writing? Simply, these are just recordings of formal meetings. Of course, there are so many meetings that we could have. Sometimes you have meetings with your friend and it's just about a chat. It's just about a conversation. So we do not expect you to record minutes anyway after such a chat. But where you're going to have formal meetings, we have given examples of, let's say, PTA meetings. Those are parent-teachers meetings at school. Then we have maybe Board of Governors meetings. We have prefects meetings. We have class students class meetings. We have wedding meetings and so many others. Many formal meetings that we have. We could have maybe staff meetings, let's say in schools, teachers have staff meetings. So here we have minutes that are recorded, and those are basically the proceedings of such meetings. So what you have recorded from those meetings are what we call the minutes. So they're very important in our day-to-day life, because whether you're in school or even out of school, you need to write minutes, especially if you have these formal meetings. Those of us who have meetings can testify on this. So at this time, we have to learn how to write minutes so that in future, we do not have first issues or problems of writing these minutes. So today we're going to look at the procedure. How do we go about writing minutes? How do we, what is the format of writing minutes? I mean, people could have various formats, but what is that format of writing minutes? And how do we write minutes that are clear, that whoever can read these minutes can really tell whether you had attended the meeting or not, can tell that these are the true proceedings of that meeting that took place. So we are going to see, as we record these minutes, what must we have? The items that we should have in our minutes. So to begin with, we are going to have what we call the title. Now, when you look at our English language, especially section A, there are some aspects that we should never miss out on, especially the title. You're going to realize that every aspect you're going to write about, let it be report writing, let it be minutes writing, let it be maybe a curriculum vitae or what else? Maybe a dialogue. We must have the title. Now, the title is very important. What must we put in our title? Now, in our title, what should be very important is the subject. What is the subject of discussion? What are you going to discuss in this meeting? Or what are the combination of these people or in this meeting? So it is really very crucial and important. Then we're going to look at the venue. Where is this meeting taking place? Now, if I can give you an example of a school setting, you're going to realize that if, let's say, that we're going to have a class meeting, let's say of senior 3A. Now, where is this meeting going to take place? If maybe it is class time, or even after classes, we will decide that this meeting is going to take place in senior 3 class, senior 3B class. Or we could decide to put it in a school quadrangle. We could decide to put it in a main hall. However, mention the venue of that meeting. That could be where you're going to sit. Then we're going to talk about the date. When was that meeting? As you write these minutes in your heading, can you tell us when that meeting took place? So make sure that you identify for us the dates. And then maybe what you should not forget is the time. When exactly did that meeting take place? What time was it? So if it was 10 a.m., please let us know. If it was maybe 5 p.m., let us know that that meeting took place at that particular time. So this is what we're going to have in our title as you write the minutes. Then after the title, what are you going to come up with? We're going to have the register of attendance. The register of attendance. Now, if you may realize that during our meetings or while we sit for these meetings, there is always a paper that goes through, and all members in that meeting are putting their names on that paper and maybe signing against their names. That is what we call register of attendance. Now, here we're going to have different categories of people who are supposed to be in that meeting. To begin with, we shall have members present. Members present. Now here, in the members, within the members present, these are the people who are within the meeting. These are the people who are attending the meeting. These are the people who are part of the meeting, okay? So here we're going to have a list of the people who could have attended the meeting. You could put the names. We could have a number of them. You put them. Of course, this time, since you're the one writing the minutes, we shall expect you to come up with the number of, or rather the names of those people who attended that meeting. Let's take an example of, like I used the senior 3A or senior 3B class meeting. Now you're going to realize if you are the secretary of that meeting, at this time, especially in an examination room, we're going to expect you to give the list of the names, but we do not expect you to give all the 80 members of the learners that attended the meeting. However, you could show us that you really have some names with you. You could come and tell us maybe Douglas attended the meeting, maybe James was attended the meeting, then we have maybe Mary, we have Jane, and you could give us a list of about 10 or 7 of those members who attended the meeting. Then from that, we could also go to the members, because sometimes members absent with the apology. Now we are underlining these subtopics. Why? Because we are writing them in small letters. With the title, we may not need to underline because we shall find ourselves writing it in capital letters. The reason I'm underlining this is because we're writing them in small letters. And in English language, when you're writing subtitles in small letters or titles in small letters, we have to underline them. So here, still, you're going to give your list. Normally, when we have meetings, there are people who are, okay, they could have wanted to attend the meeting, but because of reason A, B, C, they are unable. And maybe because they are concerned, they could give a call to the secretary, they could give a call to the chairperson. But in a class, school setting, you would find that maybe somebody has been asked to go home. Maybe somebody is sick in the sick bay. And this person tells the secretary or the chairperson of the meeting, I will not be able to attend the meeting because of ABC. And since they have given you prior information, so we shall expect you to put them under members present with apology, because they have put in their apology that they won't be able to attend the meeting. You could have a list of about 1 or 2. And then we shall have another list on the registry will be members absent without apology. Now sometimes these ones are very stubborn, or sometimes they just forgot. I don't know what to say about them, but maybe sometimes they just forgot that there was a meeting, or sometimes they could have not even had any information, depending anyway, when was the meeting, where it was, and so on, depending. They could have their reasons. But normally these are people, they're supposed to be members of the people who are supposed to attend the meeting, but they do not attend, and neither do they even put in their what? Their apology. So these are people, sometimes, in most cases, they are few. You could have 1 or 2 still, or 3, but normally they are very few. However, what I would put, maybe I would ask you, is that as a candidate, ensure that the numbers of members absent with apology, numbers absent without apology, should not exceed the members present, but because when it does, that means you never had a quorum for that meeting. And if you can understand what I mean by a quorum is having at least 3/4 of the members present. That is when you can have that formal meeting. Without that, then that means you should have considered not having that meeting. If there are so many people absent, whether with apology or without. So ensure that the numbers on this side do not exceed the numbers of the members present. So it is logical. Look into it and then see how to go about it. Then sometimes we also have this category in attendance. In attendance. Now, who are these? This is it's a very rare category, but sometimes we have it and we should not ignore it in case we have had it. For example, in attendance, these are people, they are not members of the people who are supposed to be in the meeting, but maybe they have been invited and then they decide to come. Still, I will use the school setting. Let's say, assume that we are having a class meeting for senior 3B. This could be maybe a meeting that has been forced, that has been called because of indiscipline act. And because of that, so we have invited in maybe the chairperson, disciplinary committee. We have invited the head teacher to come and attend and listen to the proceedings of that meeting. So these people shall have their names here in attendance. There could be 1 or 2. And my students normally ask me, in case they do not attend, what happens? No, in case they do not appear, we do not put them anywhere. But we only put them here, we consider them when they have appeared. So those people who are maybe not supposed to be part of, they're not the group that is supposed to be in that meeting, but we have invited them, or they have picked interest in attending to this meeting, or there are people who would give advice on the proceedings of the meeting. So that's why we shall have them in attendance. So basically this is what we have in our registry, or in our register during the registration of the, during the meeting. Then from the registration we shall go to the agenda. I hope we have already picked this. We shall go to the agenda. Now, if you look at the agenda during minutes writing, you're going to realize, candidates, that this is the heart of the meeting. This is where we are going to have all the items that are going to be discussed in the meeting. If you do not have an agenda, it is like waking up in the morning and you begin a journey, but you do not know where you're going. Now, I wonder whether you'll ever reach. You may never reach anywhere. And which mode of transport are you going to use anyway? And what is your final destination? So basically, the agenda is that very important. It is important because here we're going to have the list of the items that we are going to have discussed in our meeting. To begin with, normally we shall have the prayer. It's, I think it's considered cost for you to begin a meeting with a prayer. I mean, unless you are pagans or something. Then we shall have maybe the communication from the chair. From the chair. The chairperson. There, because first of all, you know that we shall have somebody to lead us through the prayer. Then the chairperson will obviously have to address us and tell us maybe the state of the matter. And then we shall have items like maybe reading of the previous minutes. Previous minutes. Now the assumption is you have had a previous meeting. That is normally the assumption. But if you have never had any other meeting and this is the first of its kind, then there is no need you're going to have this on your agenda. Because the truth of the matter is you will not have any previous minutes to read. But if you have them, please put it on the agenda. Now here, sometimes, you see the order of these items may not matter so much. Sometimes you could decide to bring the reactions just immediately after the communication from the chairperson. The reactions from the members. You could decide to bring it before the reading of the previous minutes. I've only put it here so that we can react once. You can decide to react because while the meeting is going on, as a serious member of that meeting, you're expected to have somewhere where to write. So that after, of course, these people have spoken, let's say the chairperson has spoken, after maybe the secretary has read to us the previous minutes, you are able to react. So I've put them together so that we can react at once. But other times, a candidate could decide to say that I want my reactions to be number 3. It does not have any problem. So you can have your reaction as number 3, and then you react to the chairperson's communication, and then you can have the reading of the previous minutes later as your number, your item 4. Then item 5, sometimes we could have A or B, but these ones in formal meetings these days we may not have A or B. However, there are times when you really find it very important to have any other business during the meeting. Let me give an example. If it is a senior 4 meeting, let's say in first term, and this is a senior 4 meeting, yes, maybe we have gathered to discuss about how we are going to make academic excellence for our class for 2020. And we have to begin it early because this is first term and this is where we should begin. And then after we have discussed, we have given in all our suggestions, we have, talked everything about academics. We could decide to have any other business. I know students would like this, where they could ask their teacher, their chairperson, or even the head teacher if he's in attendance, could ask, when is our prom party? And then maybe at that moment, it is brought into the head teacher's mind or the class teacher's head, and then they say, oh, these candidates should have a prom party. And maybe immediately at that moment, we could form a committee in charge of the prom party, and then we could think about how to go about it. We could have the AOB, that is any other business, and then we could have the closure. Now, this closure could come in any other way. Closure, we could decide to have a closure of the meeting with a closing prayer. We could decide to have a closure with advice from any member or anybody in attendance, let's say superior, or any other person. So the closure, you could decide in the meeting, how are you going to close this meeting? But at least the closure should be there in a minute. So basically, these are very important aspects that we must have in our minutes. Now, after you have maybe talked about the agenda and all the aspects on the agenda, you've really maybe explained the items on the agenda very well, we shall expect you to sign or to put signatures on your what? To put signatures on your minutes. Now, to begin with, the secretary will sign first. Normally, the secretary will sign first. If this is your page, the secretary will sign on the left-hand side. You put your signature first, you put your name in capital letters, and then you can put your title as a secretary. Then on the right-hand side, still on the same lines, we're going to expect the chairperson to sign. However, for examination purposes, sometimes we leave the signature, the line or the part for signature of the chairperson blank. We put the name in capital letters, and then maybe we put the title that chair what? Chairperson. This is sometimes. So we do that. Why? Because the chairperson only signs the minutes after they have been brought back to the members, and all members in the meeting have agreed that it is a true copy of what transpired in the previous meetings. But for examination purposes, I normally encourage my students to also go ahead and do what? And sign. For purposes of understanding, to know that there must be a signature. But I imagine even if you left it blank and you put the name and the chairperson, we would understand that your intention is to have a signature there. But because they have not been read to the members and they have not agreed that it is what really happened in a meeting, so the chairperson has not yet signed, but at least the position for signing or the place for signing is already there. So this is what we have, or we must follow on now, our minutes writing. And it's very important that we really follow what our teachers ask us really to do. Now, after all this, you must ensure as a candidate that your language is very accurate. Maybe the students will ask here, but how do I tell that my language is accurate? I normally encourage the students, the candidates, to always read through your work before you hand in. Yeah, I read most of the compositions that you are forwarding. It's very good. I liked it that you really tried. But I kept on insisting and encouraging you to read through your work. Please don't rush. Find time to read through your work. After all, at the end of the day, it is your work. Now, when you read through your work, you're going to realize that there are some few mistakes that you could have made here and there. And some of those mistakes could have come because of what? Spelling. And not because you do not even know the spelling of given words, but just because you're rushing, and then you realize that you're missing out either on an S, on one letter L, on a letter I, and so on and so on. So read through your work and then ensure that there is accuracy in what you have written. Then we shall also look at punctuations. You remember the previous, in our previous lesson, I insisted on punctuation. If you do not punctuate your work, you're not going to make any sense. Punctuations like comma, full stops, exclamation marks, question marks are really very important. And so, in this meeting, rather minutes writing, we are going to expect you to really ensure that you punctuate accurately. Punctuate the work accurately so that you can infer meaning. Okay? We're going to see that you as you read through your work, you look at your grammar. So grammar has a lot. But here, basically, can you look at your tenses, maybe? Have you used the rightful tense? I don't expect the tense of is here. Okay? The everyday tense. I'm going to expect you to write, at least in the past, especially that you're writing minutes, because you're recording minutes that have taken place. Then we're going to look at sentence construction. In the accuracy of the language, you are also going to pay attention on how you've constructed your sentences. Are your sentences complete? Some of us do not even know when we are constructing phrases and clauses and then sentences. Now, sentences must be complete. For you, when you read through your work, is that sentence making meaning? And then some of us think that when we are constructing sentences or when we refer to sentences, it is a paragraph. No, a paragraph can have as many sentences as it could. But look at each of those sentences that you've constructed. Are they complete? Do they have the right spellings? Do they have the correct punctuations? Do they have the correct grammar? And then after that, you really be able to infer meaning to your minutes. Then we shall look at the tone of your minutes. As you write these minutes, because sometimes we could say, you see, in English language, in your writing, we could tell in which tone you are talking through the writings as we read. So we are asking you that you use a formal tone. A formal tone. Yes, some of us are writing minutes, but we are writing them as if it's something that is personal. When I sat as the secretary of that meeting, I heard the chairperson saying, I mean, you don't put I. You don't make it personal. So here we are looking at how to avoid the use of first person. So in other words, do not own these minutes. Anybody can sit in that office and be a secretary. So the fact that we gave you that chance of being a secretary, don't own the minutes, they're not yours. Don't say I and I and I. And then, maybe if possible, avoid mentioning people's names. Mention of people's names. Why? Because sometimes what they have said can be used against them. Because I know now most candidates are going to say, now, madam, how do I go about this? Yes, you could decide, instead of using, Sevagala suggested that instead of having morning preps starting at 4, we should have it at maybe starting at 5:30. You could say a member suggested. A member suggested that. So you continue. Okay? Instead of using Sevagala's name, because maybe when the head teacher is going through these meals, they say, so these are the boys who have been giving us headache. You understand? So basically, you could, there are on other occasions where you could say, maybe if you're beginning with the chairperson, giving the speech of the chairperson's communication, you could say, the chairperson, who is also the class teacher of senior 3B, Mr. So-and-so, welcomed all members to the meeting. That is okay. But here, when you're coming to maybe to write about the reactions, you could avoid, if possible, you could avoid writing people's names. And then you use a member suggested, another member, something like that. So it would really look a little formal, and it would give it a formal tone than maybe using other people's names. So I want us to go to the question that we have today on our minutes. And the question reads, you are the chosen secretary for your class in your school. Since you're seeing it, I may not need to write it. You are the chosen secretary for your class in your school. Write the minutes of the meeting you attended at the beginning of first term 2020. Now, you could be in senior 3, you could be in senior 4, depending on whichever class you are, whichever stream. So at this moment, we are going to write the minutes. How do we go about? If you look at where we have passed, if you go back where we have passed, you're going to realize that we say that while we are writing our minutes, we begin with a title. So at this moment, we are going to write these minutes, and we shall say, of senior 4R class meeting. Students class meeting. Held on, we could say, let's say maybe 40, okay, let's say 15th February 2020 in the school main hall. At 10 a.m. So basically, if you look at what I said in our title, if you look at the subject, these are minutes of senior 4 students class meeting. That is our subject, if you remember what we gave on the list of what should be in our title. When was it held? Remember, we talked about the date. Held on 15th February 2020. Where? We talked about the venue. In the school main hall. The time, we talked about the time at 10 a.m. So this is what we have in our title. And if you write it so well, I know we shall award you 2 marks for this. So remember, we're working for 20 marks. So if you already have now 2 marks, now here you're going to be struggling for the rest of the 18 marks. At least you've already earned some. Then here we shall come to the, remember we talked about the registry. We shall come to the members present. So here we are underlining. Remember, we have not underlined the heading. I said that we don't underline the heading because we have written it in capital letters. And here we shall have the list. You can put any names of your choice. Some students say they do not know any names, but just look at your neighbor, the one you're sitting next. Just write any name that comes into your head. You can begin with your father's name, your mother's name. Just write any name. What we are interested in is looking at the names that at least you know that here they are names of people. And then here we shall have members. Members absent with apology. Remember, I said these are the people who have called in earlier to inform us that they won't be attending. You give their list also. We shall go to members absent without apology. Without apology. You give their list as well. Remember what I talked about, that list not exceeding this one. Or rather, the names here should not be more than these. And then we can have about 1. Then we shall have the agenda. Like I said, the agenda is very important, so you have really to identify the aspects that should go on our agenda, because they're the ones basically we're going to discuss. If we go by the list that I gave there, we have the chair, the prayers. We shall have the communication from the chair. We shall have the reading of the previous minutes. We shall have the reactions. Then we shall also have the AOB, and then we can have the closure. We could say, now I want us to look at how we're going to write the actual minutes. We shall come here and say minute 1. Minute 1, stroke, because the month is February, so we shall have stroke 2, and then 2020 for our year. For our year, 2020. Now, in other books, while you read, do not be surprised when you find this minute not written in full. Sometimes those writers will write mean 1, stroke 2, like that, but they have not completed the word minute. It is also correct, but to be on the secure side, why don't you complete it? However, I've not said the other side is wrong. So here we are going to have opening. We shall have the opening prayer. And I like work that is organized. Please make sure, endeavor to write your work and make it very organized. So underline this, because remember when I said about the subtopics, if they're not in capital letters, always underline them. So after you've underlined there your subtopic very well of the minute, then you'll come here in a paragraph and you write, get from the members that were present that day, the ones you've registered that present. Let's say Mbabazi Melan, said the opening prayer, as she asked the Almighty God to lead all the deliberations. That's so the meeting starting at exactly 10 a.m. So we are saying Baba Zimelani said the opening prayer as she asked the Almighty God to lead all the deliberations. That saw the meeting starting at exactly 10 a.m. So basically that is our first item on our minutes writing. Then from there we could go to minute 2. So if you look at how I am trying to organize my minutes, I expect your minute also to be that organized. Then here, minute 2, maybe something else I want to clarify on. I know some candidates could be asking, where is she getting those numbers? Now, minute 1, if you go to our agenda, I wish you could look at our agenda. If you look at our agenda, you're going to see that our item 1 on our agenda is prayer, which we have talked about here as opening what? Opening prayer, because it is what starts the meeting. And so here, we are now writing the minutes in details. Who said the opening prayer? Here we have Mbaba Zimelan. You could also have any member on the list of those who are present that day. Do not give a name of a person who said the opening prayer when he was absent on that day. It would not make any sense. And don't make the examiners see that you do not know what you are doing. So here we are going, if you look at our agenda, if we had the opening prayer, and then you go to 2, we are going to have communication from the chair. And so you will come here and bring it here. Communication from the chairperson. from the chairperson. So you come and really write it neatly there as you underline. And then after here, you'll come and tell us, what did the chairperson say? Some candidates are very lazy. They say, all that now, because they thought there when we had just a sketch, it is finished. It is not. You have to come here and then give us the details of what the chairperson said. We could say the chairperson who was also the class teacher of senior 4R, welcomed all members to the meeting. I mean, you could come up with any statement. Maybe something else I did not tell the candidates at the beginning, that while we are writing these minutes, there should be a lot of creativity at work. Because you're going to ask, where are we going to get all this? There's nobody who's going to tell you to write this. But we expect you to use your brains and mind to know that, of course, the chairperson should have welcomed all members to the what? To the meeting. And then go ahead and tell us what else could the chairperson have said. The chairperson could have said, immediately begun by thanking the neatness in the class and maybe thanking the senior 4Rs for being smart. Okay? The chairperson could have also commented on the discipline of the senior 4 students. He could also have gone ahead. So all these are going to be put in different paragraphs. You come here and put them in different paragraphs. He continued to say, you could also come in another paragraph here and say, he added to the above and so many others. So you tell us, you could have about maybe 5 paragraphs on the chairperson's communication, which is very good. And it should be detailed because the chairperson should give really very detailed communication during this meeting. And then after that, let's look at the other minutes of the reading of the previous meetings. I mean minutes. Minute, that is minute 3. Then 2. If you realize, apart from the item 1, the rest of the figures do not change. So here we shall have reading of the previous minutes. So still you'll come here and say, maybe the secretary took members through the previous minutes. Reading page by page. Reading page by page. And maybe from there, corrections were made of some mistakes, and then members agreed that it had been a true copy of what transpired in the previous meeting. So when you look at all these, you're going to look at, so it will make work easier for you to look at the reactions. How do you react? How do you stand into every feet of every person who is going to do what, who's going to give the reaction? You could be the different members because you are the one now writing the minutes. A member suggested that, a member commended, a member agreed, or all members unanimously agreed, and so on and so on and so on. That is what we're going to have in our reactions. If I could only have maybe how the minutes, the actual minutes should look like. You could look at how the actual minutes should look like, and then we can see how to go about and complete the rest of the minutes that we have written or we have to write. So I expect you as candidates to sit down and then write these minutes. You go one by one. think about what you're actually writing, and then know how to write each and every minute and how to present it. Because actually some of us have the information, minutes writing, but maybe the most important thing or challenge that we may have is how to present them. So if you want your minutes to be very organized, this is how we're going to present them. You're going to identify the minute and then put the subtopic of that minute. Then go down in paragraphs as you go, as you identify, or rather as you write them in details of whatever that person said. Each person should be, especially when it comes to reaction, each reaction should be represented in a paragraph. And then after all that is done, you could decide to, you could go to the closure. And as you close, I said, now given that these are senior fours, maybe A or B, other people are going to ask, well, what am I going to put in the A or B? You could decide after discussing all this, because basically here, I know the chairperson as the class teacher is going to focus so much on academics and how to have successful students for candidates for 2020. But in the AOB, the candidates could ask how to prepare their prom. And in that AOB, we could decide, we could come up with a committee that is going to prepare our prom party. And then after that, we shall have the closure. The closure, I will expect, maybe let's say, the head boy who was also a member of Senior 4R thanked the chairperson for all the what? For all the communication, and then suggested himself to take the first step in organizing the discussion groups. And after that, he said the prayer, which saw the closing of the what? Of the meeting. So the meeting ended. And then after ending with that remark and then prayer, you come and sign. Maybe what I should show you last is how to sign. We're going to see on how to sign. Because here, most candidates have issues with the signatures of the minutes. Okay? So here, we're going to have, this is the side of the secretary. I said on the left-hand side, we're going to come here. Let's say, put anything. Nobody will say that that is not your signature. Then come here and say, Nachi into Jamila. And then say, secretary. Secretary, because that is your title there. And then here come and say, yes, let's say Kato Peter. Kato Peter, and then chairperson. Chairperson. So basically that is it. That is how you're going to sign. The secretary signs on the left-hand side, and then the chairperson signs on the right-hand side. So maybe I'm going to leave you one question. You could say, you are the secretary of the prefect's body in your school. Write the minutes that transpire, write the proceedings of the meeting that you had at the beginning of this year. So you are the secretary of the prefect's body. So you write those minutes. Still, you can keep on emailing me on my, this is my email, mnanyonjo 1987 at gmail.com. I can give you, this is my WhatsApp number. Some of you found issues sending the email. So you can use any of the two to send your work for marking. Thank you so much for paying attention.